house was being built in our quiet neighbourhood and had collapsed when a sinkhole formed seemingly overnight and swallowed it whole. Things have seemed to be going smoothly with the construction. I would know. My father was in charge of it, and now he had a near $1 million mess to clean up 6 doors down from our own home. For the past week, my father had been coming home irritated and exhausted from the day's work, but yesterday, it was different. He came home quiet and withdrawn. It was not something I'd see often. He was scared. Of course, he'd never open up about how he was feeling to us. It was a trait of desperate stoicism that had honestly caused strain on my parents' marriage a few times. I tried prying about what had spooked my dad, but I got nothing but grunts and other unaudible sounds, indicating he didn't want to talk about it. I was stubborn. I pried and pried and pried, and eventually, I got my answer. There's something dangerous nobody warned me about at that site, okay? He blurted out. I think getting even that touch of emotion off his chest made him feel a bit better. He sighed and continued. There were holes in the foundation, and I saw something that shouldn't be there. What did you see in the holes, Pops? I tried to spare the conversation more. I can't explain it, and I won't. Shit. I doubt even the police would believe me if I filed a report. Now, get to bed. You've got work in the morning. He ended the conversation and went to the bathroom. I wasn't going to interrogate him there. I took the hint. I got what I wanted. I was going to investigate the site myself and see what could scare the nearly fearless man that is my father. Sneaking out of the house late at night while my parents were still up was not an option. They were too alert and fairly light sleepers too. However, doing morning shifts at the coffee shop nearby meant I would be up in the early hours, and even if they did wake up, they'd assume I was going to work. I had a hard time sleeping with the anticipation of my own plan, but I managed to get at least 4 hours in. My phone's alarm woke me up. 4:30 AM, an hour before I'd normally be up. Everything was business as usual, except I snagged a powerful but small flashlight that my father kept in the house. If holes in the foundation of a larger house are anything like some of the caves I've hiked in, then my phone's flashlight will not be strong enough. I made it to the house, or what was left of it anyway. Not much remained besides the foundation. I scaled the site fence, making an effort to keep quiet. The sinkhole was insanely deep, and there was enough uneven clumps of dirt, foundation, and rear bar to properly climb up and down the hole. I wonder if my father took the same way down. I reached the bottom, where there was a few inches of water that soaked my shoes. Frustrated, I swung my bag to my front so I could change it to my work shoes, the more expendable ones, and that's when I heard it. A scratching sound, like something dragging a stick against some bricks. It produced a small echo as well. I forgot about my shoes and went straight into high alert mode. I'd be kicking myself if this mysterious noise was just a rat or something. I shone the powerful flashlight in the direction of the noise. A hole in the foundation. Though calling it a hole was an understatement, the hole was a tunnel, roughly 6 feet tall. The scratching sound persisted, but slowly grew more quiet. I deduced whatever was making the noise was moving down the tunnel. Too stubborn and prideful to turn back, I quickly checked the time and I realised I had more time to spare than I thought. I could pursue the noise, see what it was, and get the fuck out of here to the boring coffee shop without anyone noticing I was here. Carefully, I crept down the tunnel, flashlight in tow. It was cold and the airways were stale and dusty. I threw out an extra jacket that I'd packed in my bag for good measure. Much of the tunnel's walls became dirt and rocks. I was truly underground. I could hear scratching slowly getting louder and louder. I was getting closer to it. I neared the corner where I spotted what I can only describe as a rat's tail quickly sling around the bend of the tunnel. It seemed a bit big for a rat. Maybe it was a possum. Frustrated, thinking my hunch was just a rodent, I picked up my pace and darted around the corner. It seemed like the tunnel stretched deep down. I sighed, inhaling a pungent smell. I was expecting to see a family of possums or rats or something, and then I would leave and just go about my day. Boy, was I wrong. I heard a shriek while my flashlight was down. The scratching had stopped too. Annoyed but desperate for clarity, I raised my flashlight to peer down the tunnel, and immediately I jolted back. Maybe 15 feet away stood a humanoid figure. It was larger than me, but not by much. Attached to its rear was a rat tail I saw going around the corner. It was naked but covered in a peach fuzz type of hair. It turned around to face me, and I saw its beady eyes, large rat ears and crooked large teeth. It began violently scratching at the wall as it shrieked again. I spotted with the flashlight more pairs of beady eyes that reflected the light, much farther away than its first monster, but there were ones crawling on the ceiling of the tunnel. They shrieked in unison towards me. The closest one dropped on all fours and also started crawling towards me. I booked it out of there. Thankfully, not a long distance. These things were in pursuit, and I felt a clawed hand clutch my jacket. I tugged away and toppled into the old foundation of the house. I was back outside, preparing to get mauled by a family of rat creatures. I let out a scream as I flailed around to get up from the mess of rebar and mud. The cold air hit my back. This thing had torn a hole in my jacket. I took a quick glance as I struggled out of the hole. These creatures didn't exit their tunnel. Instead, the main one was chewing on the trunk of my jacket they had torn. I saw their beady eyes glaring at me as they slowly crept back into their tunnel. Shaken, I managed to get into work on time, covered in filth. I had to play off the fact that I was spelunking a rat tunnel and made up some bullshit excuse as to why I was so dirty and dazed. My manager sent me home, out of concern, not irritation. I know why my dad is scared of that site now. I sure as hell don't want him to go back to it, and I don't think he'll have to if he contacts the job out of some other unlucky soul. Hopefully, they don't attack him. Seeing those things was frightening enough. Unfortunately, someone else may encounter them soon. 2 doors down from the site, a sinkhole had begun to swallow a resident's garage. Thanks for listening to the story, guys. I've been Gilliboy Jr. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for your support. Bye bye now.